Hi, and welcome to the final day of the LinkedIn Fitness Plan. So firstly, well done for making it this far. There's a lot of information you've had to take on board through these videos and through the emails, but hopefully it's starting to bear fruit for you as well. In today's final video, we're going to be talking about how do you keep this going? How do you maintain your LinkedIn fitness over time? Well, key to that is being able to measure it and being able to see what impact you're actually having from all this activity that you're doing on LinkedIn. Because networking, as useful as it is, often isn't that obvious as to what impact you're having or what the results are from your networking activity, whether that be online or in the real world. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at a couple of measures on LinkedIn that can help you kind of effectively keep your finger on the pulse of what you're doing on LinkedIn and to see what impact that's having over time. So let's head on over to LinkedIn and we'll take it from there. So when you enter LinkedIn, on the main screen that you see, on the left-hand side, there's a couple of options you can click on. One of them says who viewed your profile, and the other says views of your post. So we're going to use both of these to start with in terms of getting some numbers, basically, in terms of what's happening around your LinkedIn activity. So first of all, we'll click on who viewed your profile. So what you get here is a very simple graph that shows you how many different people viewed your profile over time. As you can see, my own profile graph looks a little bit like a roller coaster ride here at the moment. Lots of ups, lots of downs, some steep bits, some shallow bits. What does it actually mean though? Well, I think of this page and this graph as being really an indicator of how active you are in terms of your networking. Now, there's no right number, there's no wrong number, there's no magic answer here as to whether you're doing, enough, whether you're doing not enough. Because remember, this is not about you trying to compare yourself to anybody else. This is more about helping you track your own progress over time. So if you decide that it's really important in terms of growing your network and building your business, that networking is a key part of your marketing strategy, and you want to invest time in it, and you want to invest time in networking, then checking back in here, not necessarily every day, maybe once a month, will help to remind you as to how well you're actually doing against that. Because what I always find with the views of your profile in LinkedIn is it's very closely tied to how active you are in networking. And that can be networking in any shape or form, depending on how you measure it. So if you're going to a face-to-face networking meeting, the more of those you go to, the more people you speak to, the more views you'll get of your profile, because the people you meet will take your business card, they'll look you up online, and they'll come and view your profile. Similarly, in terms of your activity on LinkedIn, the more content you create, the more comments you post on LinkedIn, again, the more views you'll get of your profile. Because each of those activities, regardless of whether they're turning up to a meeting, providing a talk, or providing content online, they're all ways that improve your visibility. They're all ways that get you seen by more people, to put it bluntly. And when people see you online or in real life, then they're going to want to find out more about you. Even if they're people that are already in your network, they might not have read your profile before. They might want to find out more about the services you offer. They might want to know more about your background. They might want to know how you got into doing what you do at the moment. So for all those reasons, this screen is a really good way to check the progress of your networking, and to help you just kind of do a bit of a self-audit, really, as to are you doing as much as you want to. And remember, it's not about comparing yourself to other people. It's just about tracking your progress over time. So in terms of my progress, looking at this graph, as I said at the beginning, there's ups and downs in here, but I can say that fairly accurately reflects my own networking activities over this time. So the peaks on there have been when I was doing a lot more networking, and also when I was doing some talks as well, which obviously gets you in front of more people. The times when they've been slower, when I've been slower at networking, there's been less activity going on, and therefore less people visiting my profile. So that's one way to use this particular page. The bottom part of the screen, if you've just got a free LinkedIn account like I have, will just show you some of the recent people that have viewed your profile. Now, when someone tries to connect with you, then they'll usually appear there. But people obviously can also view your profile for other reasons as well. So that's all about the profile views. So that's one measure you can use. Another measure to look at is the views of your content. So if we go back to the main screen within LinkedIn and click on views of your post, we get back to the content we looked at the other day. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at this first example piece of content here, this post that I did, which was a testimonial that I created as a graphic to share as a post in my feed. Now, if you scroll down to the bottom of it, you can see there's three different numbers here. You've got the number of people that liked the post, that clicked on the like button. You've got the number of people that left comments, and you've got the number of people that actually viewed the post in their news feed. Now, if I click on the 739 views, it'll open up another screen that breaks that number down a little bit further. So based on where the people worked who viewed the post, you can see what organizations they work for, you can see their titles, and you can also see where they're based geographically, based on their own profile. So again, there's lots of information, lots of data here, but you know, how much of the information is actually relevant to you? You don't need to know all this information. The way that I treat the posts that I share and looking at the views and the reactions and the comments on it is really as a way to gauge what's working with my network. So I try out different types of content in my network to see what gets more engagement, what gets more views, what gets more comments. And each different type of content that you create, you know, has a different impact. Not all content is going to create comments. So this particular piece of content, because I was sharing a testimonial, is much less likely to put a comment on. People are much less likely to comment on it. They might react to it, they might like it, or they might just see it in their news feed and carry on scrolling. And that's fine. You know, every piece of content you create doesn't have to have a massive reaction to it or a massive amount of engagement. It's about the visibility that gets you out there. But other types of content you create will have different impacts. So we saw earlier on that the, excuse me, in fact, yesterday, I'm just remembering now, we saw yesterday that the comments that you do, you know, if you create a piece of content that actually encourages comments, then you're going to get more comments on your content as a result. So that's one example. The other thing I'm going to show you now is a different piece of content that I created that had a huge number of views. In fact, one of the highest number of views I've ever had on a piece of content I created. Now, let me just click on the other tab here. There we go. So this post was about a piece of work that I'd done for one of my clients. It wasn't actually a testimonial. It was a press release that was published on a website. And what I did was to take a screenshot of the website with the news story on it and post that on my news feed. Now, there isn't very much text. I'm not going to expand that out, but you can see the image here, which is the image from the news website. And basically, the news story was about a new client I started working with. However, if you scroll down, if we click on see more. Okay, actually, it's not going to show me here. When I rehearsed this earlier on, it did show me the number of views against the post here, which was over 1,900 views. Now, sometimes when you are going back and reviewing old content like this, sometimes LinkedIn doesn't always show you that numerical information. So one of the good practices to follow is to every couple of weeks to go in and just create a little spreadsheet where you can record how many views you had or how many comments you had on a particular post. Therefore, when you go back over time, you can just go down through your spreadsheet and actually see what response you had to different types of content. So why did this particular post have so many more views than other posts that I've done? Well, it was, as you can see here, it was done about 7 months ago. So I had fewer people in my network then than I do today. And yes, I tagged Tony Carterin, who was the client I worked with, who's mentioned in the news story. I had included one hashtag, but it's probably not a very popular or very common hashtag. So I think part of the reason why this particular piece of content worked well was it was quite different. I don't often post images of news stories in my feed. I think it helped as well that it has a photo in it, a photo of me, and obviously I'll be recognizable to people in my network. And it's a good news story. You know, it's a news story about a new client, about a new piece of work, and there's a photo of two people smiling and shaking hands. So I think that's why this particular piece of content works so well. But it's always difficult to know when you create and share something as to what actually does work. So the best thing to do is to try out different pieces of content, but to measure your progress, to go back and to see what impact it had, to see how many people viewed it, how many people added comments, and how many people liked it as well. And that way you can test what's working with your audience, and maybe what's not working so well with your audience, and to try out different approaches like that. So that actually brings us to the end of this video in today, the last day of the LinkedIn fitness plan. So I hope you found these videos useful over the last 5 days, and I hope you found the emails useful as well. If there's any that you haven't read yet, then please go back and have a read through them to get the benefits out of the other tips that are included within there. And also just to say that in terms of what's next, obviously, is to keep it going, to keep going with your LinkedIn activity, and to keep going with these exercises to build up your LinkedIn muscles. And look out for some more hints and tips that I'll be sending you via email. All the best. Thanks.